Good morning, everybody. I'm a little bit behind this morning. We have a little person that was sick a little bit, and now she's all better and chatty as can be. But anyways, so I'm a little bit late. I want to welcome you. I am Melissa Nilsson of Waldorf Essentials, and today's topic is what they think of me is none of my business. And I wanted to sort of bring this. I saw a trend in um, in some of the blog posts or some of the Facebook posts that I've been watching over the last 2 weeks or so, and I just started thinking about the holidays are coming, and so there's a lot of people that I think are going to be feeling like they need to explain themselves for the choices, homeschooling otherwise, to well-meaning family and friends over the next 2 months especially. So as we sort of dive into the beginning of the season, I want to help you with some words to actually say to these people when they are, doing their well-meaning thing, which sometimes it's really well-meaning, sometimes they're really concerned, and sometimes it's just downright rude. So let's start with those of you who have made a weird decision in the past. Like maybe you had a home birth, or maybe you breastfed your child until they were 4, or other weird decisions like that. I want you to look at home, and I say weird, in the most loving way because I made the same decisions. I want you to think of homeschooling with Waldorf or homeschooling in general as just one of those decisions. When I started this path years ago, my mom was the first one. She was like, I don't know what you're doing. I'm not behind this. I don't support it. Harry was like 4 at the time. And now she's like my biggest fan. Like, she has this huge testimony of homeschooling, huge testimony of Waldorf homeschooling. And it's not just because she's my mom. I think that she really has seen the progression of our children, and she watches my other nieces and nephews as they've grown, sometimes not want to come and hang out with grandma and grandpa, or not want to sit with everybody and sort of talk. And my kids can handle themselves and adults all the time. So there is something to be said for what homeschoolers sort of bring to the table as far as being able to socialize with everybody. And you may not be able to see that now because maybe you only have a 4 or 5-year-old and they're still in a very sanguine, sort of happy-go-lucky, crazy place. But as they get older, as you start to have them in situations where they're continually working with adults and with other children, and they're not just working with children that are their age, so they're working with children that are younger than them, older than them, and so then they're sort of forced to learn how to talk to other people. They're forced to learn how to talk to other adults. One of the blessings, like we have a co-op here in San Diego, and one of the blessings is that the children, as parents, our desire is that all of the children feel comfortable with us. So all of the children feel safe. And so because of that, we are really working to sort of build rapport with each of them, and then the children are becoming more and more comfortable. So as they become more comfortable with us, then they're more comfortable talking with other adults in their lives as well. And so that is one of the purposes of sort of having a cooperative situation where the children are then working with lots of different adults. So if you've made those weird decisions, hopefully the people in your family will just be like, oh, that's just another weird decision, which is what happened with me. My siblings didn't really say anything to me until my kids got older. Like, are you still doing this? Like, what are you thinking? How is that working? And by then I was really able to say, well, this is how it's working. And then, we built a business on top of that too. So then they were like, oh, it must really be working. If you can tell people how to do this, then it must really be working. So then they sort of laid off. But if you're in a situation where you've got, sort of continual people that are sort of being very toxic, first I want to encourage you to remove yourself from those situations. So if you feel like you're going to go to a Thanksgiving dinner or a Christmas outing and there's going to be nothing but strife, then don't go. Just don't go. And say why you're not going to go. You could say, you know what, Aunt Jean, I'm not sure why you invite us anyway. all you do is tell me what a bad parent I am. And I would be really open about that. I would say that out loud. Or, Mom, I know you love me, and I know that, that you would like to see me there, but honestly, I can't handle what Susie does when I'm there. She's just really rude. So either I come and you back me up and you help me out of those situations, or I don't come. And it's time to put on your big girl underpants and be an agent. You know, we've been talking about this agent or object thing in some of our other Monday morning videos, and I talk about it a lot with our Thinking, Feeling, Willing members. But it's time to put on those big girl pants and be an agent and decide, I get to choose. And if it's your husband's family, you know, Eric and I are on the same page. And so I encourage that you get on the same page as your husband. He would never put me in a situation that would make me feel super uncomfortable. And he would also never put me in a situation where he wasn't willing to back up our decisions as parents. So, you know, we have some decisions that some people think are crazy. My in-laws think we're nuts for not vaccinating. Nuts. I don't care. I just don't care. I also know that because of this this year being sort of highly charged politically with the presidential campaign here in the United States, if you don't feel like you can go to somebody's house without being, you know, ramrodded about, see, our party won, then don't go. You know, the title of this video is What They Think of Me Is None of My Business. And when I started really adopting that, man, my life changed. And yes, there are times that still gets me down. Oh my goodness. Somebody could see something really critical about me on Facebook and then tag me in it. I don't get that. Don't tag me if you're going to be rude to me. And I'll go and I'll read it thinking, oh, it's something that's nice, and it's not nice. And then I have to remind myself, what they think of me is none of my business. That they're welcome to think that, and that's okay. And but there have been times where I haven't sort of had my spiritual armor on, and I've gone and I've read those things, and it's sort of made me feel really crappy, and feel really crappy for the day, and then I snap myself out of it, and I go, wait a minute, you're awesome. Why are you feeling like that? And so you have to do that to yourself. You have to sort of get yourself to a place where you feel good about it. And somebody mentioned here in the comments, unfriending on Facebook because of different views is crazy. You know what? It is crazy. I encourage people to unfollow family members that are maybe toxic to them, or they have things that they don't agree with. I do think it's okay to unfriend somebody who's openly vicious and mean to you on Facebook. I have actually some family members blocked on Facebook, and I think that's perfectly healthy. But I think that the whole like unfriending because of different political views or different, I think that's really silly, especially if it's somebody that you have to see on Thanksgiving or on Christmas. I think that you really have to step back, and some of it is about getting thicker skin, and some of it is just about realizing that those people sort of have ego issues, and those people have this need to be mean to people, and you have to get good at being able to look at them and say, you know, I'm really sorry that you don't like how I'm raising my kids, but they're mine, so I'm going to raise them how I want. Or, I'm really sorry that that's the way you feel, but I still love you, and if this is going to cause a problem, we're happy to get up and leave. And you know, that definitely is a call for some bravery on your part. And it will be probably the hardest and best thing that you ever have to do. But it's something that needs to be done. Otherwise, you leave there feeling like crap. You leave there with angst and anger and frustration, and you want to just let everybody on Facebook know how bad it was, and rather than just really dealing with it and being an agent for yourself. And, you know, that's one of the things that I work with families on often. I have a couple of moms that come to me and say, I have this thing coming up and I really don't want to go. And I go, then don't go. Don't go then. That is just not what you should do yourself. Somebody asked, how do you let it not get to you? Well, you know what? I know I'm a daughter of God, and I know that God loves me, and I know that my family loves me, and I know that my children love me, and what other people think does not matter to me at all. It might get me down. Like I said, sometimes I've gotten down for a day or so. And it's usually more It's more about what people that, like I said, that want to say something critical about my work. And I get that. And you be as critical as you want to be. Just don't tag me in it when you do it. So there have been times that I've gotten down about that. But usually what that is an indicator for me is that I need to get up and get away from the computer. And then I need to go walk at the beach. I need to go for a walk with my family. I need to go get some ice cream. I need to, and that's not about burying your feelings. That's about like, hey, that's a happy place for me. I need to, go for a good walk. I need to have sex with my husband. I need to, be in a place where I am allowing myself to be comforted by other people in my life that do love me. And it's about remembering who you are. And you are sons and daughters of a divine being, regardless of what your religion is, and regardless of whether or not you want to believe it. That is the truth, that we have divine parents. And so you have to remember that you are of that space, and so is the person that's mean. So is that other person. So if you can remember that about yourself and then remember that about them, it helps you with your anger towards them. And it also helps me when I step back and I go, I've been on a long path and it's taking me down some crazy roads. And maybe they're just not on the path as long as I have been. So it's easier for me to step back and go, you know what? They're still on the ignorant path. I'm just going to walk this way. I'm not walking that way. I don't want to get into it with them. I don't want to be down the road with them. That is not fun. It is not exciting to me. But you have to get above all of it. You have to love. And if that means that you have to love those people from afar and you can't be in the same room with them, that is okay. And I think we sort of live in this time where we think that we need to force ourselves to go to these things and be hurt and then bottle up these feelings that then we take out on our children and take out on our spouse and take out in the workplace. And that is not true. You do not have to put up with that. You can absolutely leave. There have been times where we have left in the middle of dinners. There have been times that we have just not gone. There have been times when during a family function, I've had to put my foot down and say, I'm not drinking that bottle of wine with you, so stop asking me. There have been times that, and that has nothing to do with my religion, well, some, but mostly about living with an alcoholic for 13 years. So there are times when we have to make really hard decisions about sort of what we're going to say with family. And I think it's a good idea to practice. I think it's a good idea to think about, if you've got a big family function coming up, I think it's a good idea to think about what are some obstacles that I could face or that my husband or my children could face, and how am I going to get through those? And really sort of, you could role play it with your husband. Eric and I have role played before. If she says this, what are you going to say? If she says this, what am I going to say? And if I say this, what are you going to say? And sort of really getting to a place where we're comfortable using the words that we need to use. And then at the end of the day, we still have the option to go, you know what? This is going to be too hard. We're just not going to go. We're going to have a family gathering here. And that's another thing that I want to say. It's a lot easier to sort of hold that space if you're holding it on your own turf. So volunteer to host Thanksgiving dinner. Volunteer to host a Christmas party. Volunteer to host some of those things where you have a little more control over what's going on. And you have a little more control over the conversation. And you can, have more control over media that's on. I mean, that's always been a hard one, is one that when we are at somebody else's house and the TV is just on constantly. And it's not even that my children want to watch it. It's just that it's an assault to their senses and my senses. And I leave there with a headache and all of those things. And so I think it's very important that we are able to just sort of put our foot down and say, this isn't okay. And I also think it's important that we can build bridges and make connections. And I think it's important that we can say, I love you, and I know we have different political views. Can we just not talk about it today? So like my son that lives in Utah with my ex-husband, he's coming next week. So excited. I haven't seen him in a month and a half. I just saw him a little bit ago. I talk to him every day. But I'm really excited for him to come because he's not been to our new house. And he's a little weirded out by the fact that we live 3 blocks from the beach. And he's going to have a good time, I think. And he voted much differently than I did. And just for all of those people that keep asking me, I voted for Jesus. In California, I had the write-in option. I voted for Jesus. Harry voted for me, which I think is really funny. Anyway, so, but my son voted very differently than we did, and I really don't care to spend 5 days talking about that. And so we have to have a conversation. Jacob, I love you. And he'll be like, duh, we're not going to talk about that. I want to have a good time. You want to have a good time. Let's just not talk about that. And so people that are healthy or approaching healthy will absolutely be on board with not having conversations about things that are hurtful or things that might be controversial. If you've got, some older people in your sphere of family that just can't not pick on you, then I would just have really good comebacks. If you're willing to go, put on that thick skin, be really happy, slather yourself in some Elevation essential oil, and really have a good one to come back with. If somebody, if somebody says something mean to you, I would just, I really like well, you raised your kids, now it's my opportunity to raise mine. And you made a fair amount of mistakes, so I am sure I'll probably make some mistakes too, but they're mine. They're my mistakes. You raised yours. These are my mistakes and my children. And they're the children that I have stewardship over, and I'm going to follow the things that I feel like the Spirit has asked me to follow. And so I think you have to get really good at really being able to say those things. Honestly, it's just sort of like breastfeeding. How many times were you asked to breastfeed in the bathroom? And I've had to say, I remember on numerous occasions, I would say, well, Aunt June, I know that this might be bothering you, but I do have a blanket on to cover me up. Would you like to take your food to the bathroom? Because I don't think my baby should take his food to the bathroom. And let that sink in. And then they'll be like, oh, okay. So, you can encourage them to choose to not look at your breast. Encourage them to not talk about homeschooling, not talk about education. Now, if you have a family of educators, and I know a lot of you have that dynamic. Again, I would just start by saying, I would like to have you tell me all the horror stories of public school. Every one of them, and if they have problems bringing any up, then I think you should bring up some of the ones that they've shared with you in the past. Well, remember that one time that you talked about that kid that brought the gun to school? Well, we're not going to have that problem. Do you remember that one time you talked about that sex offender in your classroom? We're not going to have that problem. Do you remember that one time? Bring it up, because you know what? Even public school educators, they know, because we have a lot of clients that are public school educators. Hi. That used to send their kids to public school, and now they're homeschooling with Waldorf. So I don't think you should be afraid of those things. I think you should talk about why is this important to you? So that brings me sort of to the last thing I want to say, and that is, don't walk into this blind. Educate yourself. You can give a short, like if somebody says, well, tell me what's Waldorf about, and how is it different at home than it is in the school? And you can say, well, at home it's not really all that different, except for I do all of the teaching. I don't have 4 other teachers to help me. And that's something that I'm working on, getting much better at every day. And I'm very confident that I can get that done. But Waldorf is an educational method that meets the whole child. It meets all of their academic needs, all of their artistic needs, and it helps them develop their will so that they become, human beings that know how to do all of those things and that can stand in many different places. And you'll see, look at how good they are at drawing. Or did you hear that flute piece they just played for you? Bring up good things. Don't be afraid to bring up good things, but also know your stuff. So if somebody says something like, well, I heard that those kids don't want to read until they're in 3rd grade. And then that's my opportunity usually to say, well, that's sometimes the case in the school setting, but oftentimes in the homeschool setting, because we have more opportunities to work with them one-on-one, they're usually reading, a lot of them by the end of 1st grade, many of them really well by the end of 2nd grade. And if they're not reading till beyond that, the beauty is that we're at home and we can work on it every day. And in the school setting, she's got 30 other children to work with, and I don't have that problem. I've just got the 3 of them, or the 4 of them, or the 6 of them, but you still have less than a classroom full of 30. So, don't be afraid to bring things up and to say things, but make sure you have the backup for them. Make sure that you know what it is that you're doing. And often, if you can just come with a few key phrases, even if you're just learning, you can come with a few key phrases. That's enough to shut people up, because they sort of like, okay, she's really weird. I'm going to stop talking to her now. Or, that gives me something to think about. And so you want to sort of be in that place of having the upper hand in a conversation like that, and being in a place where they, and I don't think, you don't have to be a crazy choleric like me in order to do that. I think that you can absolutely, it doesn't matter what your temperament is. If you have the knowledge in you, share it. And share it in a nice, loving way. And know also when you're casting pearls before swine. And if you don't know that scripture story, go look it up. Because you don't want to cast pearls before people that are, your pearls being your wisdom with Waldorf, or the things that you do at home, before people that really just don't give a dang. Like, don't do it. It'll waste your breath. It'll frustrate you. And they're not going to listen anyway. So there were very many opportunities when I was raising the older 3, and we'd be in family settings, and I'd start talking, and I'd just stop. And that's a great way to find out if anybody's actually listening to you, or if you're just listening to yourself. Because then sort of what to say and what not to say. And if they're really interested, they'll go, oh, no, go on. What were you saying? And if they really don't care, then they'll not. And so I think it's really about sort of knowing who your audience is, and sort of knowing that it's okay to say no. And that's a lot of sort of what we teach in Thinking, Feeling, Willing, is sort of knowing your limits, knowing your boundaries, and setting boundaries for other people, setting boundaries around where you want people to be, and knowing how to get out of those situations when you're in them. And it just takes practice. And hopefully you're going to have a great holiday season, and you won't be in any of those situations. But you might be at the grocery store next week, and somebody might say, I don't know about this. Why are you doing this? And being really nosy. And I honestly, if you have a nosy cashier, there is zero reason why you can't look at her and say, thank you for helping me check out with my groceries. Mind your own damn business. Have a great day. And don't take people's crap. It's just because that's what it is. It's somebody else's poop, and they're feeling insecure about themselves. There's no reason why you have to take it. And there's absolutely no reason why you have to be mean about it. But you can say to somebody, this really isn't your business. People don't realize the comments that they make that they make often to children, and people being everybody, public and family, that are really hurtful. Things like, oh, you're so small. Or, you don't like ice cream? That's my favorite, because my dear friend, her son doesn't like ice cream. And man, that was a huge one for me, because I was like, what do you mean you don't like ice cream? And she's like, no, really, he doesn't like ice cream. And he doesn't like to talk about not liking ice cream. And I was like, oh, you know what? I just made a judgment here that I shouldn't have made. And so we really have to sort of watch ourselves, even if we're really good. And I feel like I'm really good about not making judgments. And then I just made this judgment about this kid not liking ice cream. So then one day, same kid, he's super sweet, and I love him so much, so much. We have some great conversations, he and I. And I said, talk to me about ice cream. And he says, well, sometimes I like ice cream, but lots of times I don't. I said, oh, okay, I understand that. You're 4, and I understand that. And so, but I'm a well-meaning adult that loves him and that wants to genuinely understand him. And most people in their lives are not. So it is okay for you to be a mama bear and just say, you know what? We're not talking about that with you. We don't even know you. You're the dang grocery store clerk. Check out our groceries. Or a nice person at church. The great thing about church, in our congregation, our children really tend to get to know everybody. And really, they end up becoming like family. And then it's really hard to leave them, but really becoming like family. But there are some people that aren't like that. There are some people that are very much just sort of they see on Sunday, And those are the people that generally will make those judgments. So you have to be really good about saying, you know, I'm sorry, but just because we come to church together doesn't mean we believe everything that's the same. And just have really good canned responses, because I think that's so important. It really helps you not feel off guard. And man, your kids get, so many times my kids have turned to me and said, thank you. Thank you for saying that. And thank you. I didn't think I could say that, and I felt so small. And so, I think it's okay because you're still being firm and loving. You're not being mean. You're not yelling it at somebody. And I think it's okay to sort of say, hey, you crossed a boundary. Let's get back on the other side of that fence. And really be okay with that and own it and sort of say what you want to say. And, don't hold those things in. You can say them in respectful ways, but don't go to things this holiday season feeling horrible. Sort of take care of it before you get there. Don't allow people to be mean to you. Be in a position where you can get up and leave if you need to, and just sort of stand in your now moment and be who you are, and be who you say you want to be when you tell me who you are. And that takes a lot more courage than writing it. And so I encourage you to do that and have a great day and a wonderful week. It's Monday. Next week is Thanksgiving in the United States. So we have a little holidays coming up. But we're going to go have some fun today because we're just weird like that. So own your weird. Have a good day. Bye now.